I am absolutely blown away. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Treantmonk, the Treantmonk, someone who I watched before I even started doing YouTube videos, the optimizer himself, made a video about DC20, breaking it down. He had some great stuff to say and some great feedback. Me and him have been talking really ever since I brought him into this whole thing. If y'all aren't aware, with DC20, new tabletop roleplay game that I created and launched very recently here, I'm trying to not only build a community of people that play the game, but a community of content creators that make videos and content for the game, whether it be resources to use in your game, video tutorials, guides, thoughts, builds, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. And there's already been small channels starting up and doing this whole thing, all the way up to One Shot Questers, a massive channel doing entire campaigns of DC20 as well. But Treantmonk, it's just a soft spot in my heart here to see this video. I want to show you a little clip which shows how excited Treantmonk is about this. It might have been my favorite part of the whole thing, so check this out.
And I started looking at the time as I was getting everything written down and doing all the analyzing and going back and rewriting my notes. And it was suddenly 1 a.m. and then 2 a.m. and then 3 a.m. And I kept thinking that there was no point even trying to sleep until I have this puzzle figured out and on the page. So at 6 a.m., I sent Alan my notes and I went to bed.
And I got those notes. I went through everything, and he does a great job of showcasing and showing some spotlights and trying to see where there's any sort of cracks and stuff, because that's what I absolutely love in this alpha phase, is polishing off some stuff. And I already have the 0.4 alpha is what is currently out there right now at the time of making this video. In a very few amount of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, the 0.5 will come out that has a bunch of great quality of life fixes, little typo changes, some big new things that come out there, and ancestries to be able to actually create and come up with your ancestries. Don't worry, I will have I'm going to do a full video on ancestries and how those work, and I'm also going to do a full patch note guide of all of the updates. If you have 0.4 and you want to know what happened to 0.5, I'm going to make a full video talking about every single one of those updates. It's going to be a longer one, but I mean, that's kind of the style of kind of how things are going here. I want to give you guys and keep you guys updated and posted on all this great stuff. And again, just thank you to Treantmonk. He completely surprised me with that video that he went and posted about that. I loved it. I watched the whole thing. It was a wild experience for me to watch. And a massively huge thank you, and I was blown away by Treantmonk's community. Last night, me and my wife went through the 500 comments in that video, went through every single one, and it was insane. The amount of positivity was insane. I couldn't find a negative comment. The amount of love and the amount of excitement that was in there, it was insane. It was insane, and I would be lying if I said I didn't tear up a couple times. But that's what this video is here about. I'm going to kind of respond to some of those. I went and snagged and highlighted some of those comments overall, and I just wanted to say overall to everybody, out of 500 comments, I'm just blown away, even by some people stopping and saying like, "Oh, I'm really excited for this. I'm going to keep an eye on it." Like, man, it's just it feels great, and it really is what fuels the creation of this game and me to come in here and do everything that we do. And I can't wait to get that update out for you guys, and just overall thank you. So I'm going to talk about some of those comments, and I'm going to talk about some of the updates in the future of where this is kind of going as like a little pre-update for anybody that's new here that's came in from Treantmonk's video. I want to give you all welcome and get everyone on the same page. Here we go. First question's here from Doug599. What are your design goals with DC20, and what is the design philosophy that you're using to guide its development? I could talk about this for forever, so I'm going to try and keep it a big picture overview. I have only truly played extensively 5th edition. That's where I'm from. That's where I've entered into the hobby in. Pathfinder 2 came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's 3 action points. That's so cool. It's so much more fluid and universal. Spells costing 1, 2, or 3 action points. That's so cool. And it just blew my mind, right? This is where I've been this entire time in this process. Is you've known, if you're familiar with Alkander's Almanac, that is my culmination of every homebrew rule all in one for 5th edition. And I have been making Alkander's Almanac for years before I even started my YouTube channel. Those were the rules that I was using at my home game tables. I would log and keep everything in spreadsheets. I'm a massive nerd in that way, which ended up working out once I made a YouTube channel, because I had this massive pool of every single rule for D&D. But I also had other rules that I really thought could be done better. Death saves and having these little bubbles I feel like could be issued out a little bit differently. Being at 1 hit point and getting hit really hard and then not possibly killing you. that feels strange. That was one of the first rules I ever wrote down. Maybe I should go get that binder out. And that was one of the first ones, if not the first one. It was just weird. And that's the fundamental foundation of D&D. And there's certain things that are fundamental foundations of Pathfinder that don't fit right with me. I think it could be done better. And those I've never been able to touch because I was a D&D content creator making homebrew rules on D&D. While in the background for years making up these rules for DC20, playtesting them with groups of friends, like the rules light version. And it was just so simple. And it was so obvious and intuitive. That's the big key word here as far as a design goal is intuitive. I played with a group of people who had never played a tabletop roleplay game. They rolled a D20 and they had an armor class, right? And how do you deal damage? I don't want these people to be grabbing damage dice and rolling for damage. So yeah, the higher you roll, the more damage you deal. Every 5. Simple, right? I love by 5s. That's how I kind of dungeon master is, DC's 5, 10, 15, 20, all that kind of stuff. Beating it by 5s. I've always loved that. If I get 5 more, my players know if they roll a 13 and they're like, oh man, I'm gonna use inspiration on this or whatever because they want to bump it up that little bit. And that's just how I run games. It's part of my dungeon mastering. So the by 5s just was an automatic instant solution there. So there was a defense and every by 5s, they dealt more damage. Things had like 3 health. If you hit it 3 times, you would kill it. If you hit it once really hard and beat it by 10, then you kill it in 1 hit. Oh my gosh, you rolled so high. How cool is that? And it just felt really nice. So I give those examples to say the design philosophy behind DC20 is to take the best parts of D&D and Pathfinder and run with them. And in full transparency, I initially was planning to make a game more similar to 5th edition. But as it kept developing, answers and solutions were further away from like, oh, you know what? Like, let's just have reactions, pull it all together. It's all one and you're reset. And then physical and mental defense, which actually, if we do have that, it allows us to change the way spells works and how effects and damage are dealt. And all of these other really cool things started to open up because I just kept an open mind in the development process of having it all work out. And then the math of it coming together, I used my teacher background with all of that. So it all felt right. But the overall philosophy to answer that question is efficiency, intuitiveness, fun that prioritizes choice and player to be able to fluidly make choices across the board, whether it's the concept of mana points, giving you choice of how you're going to cast your spells, and not only which spells you cast, but once you cast the spell, pumping more mana into it to enhance it and customize it in the way that you want. Marshall's in the same way, wanting to swing a sword, but I want to be able to pour more action points to swing a sword differently. So yeah, you can make an attack, but what if you want to trip somebody or shove somebody or make them or expose them, make them weaker or make them deal less damage because you're trying to tank or something like that. That's another game design goal is I love tanking, and I don't think tanking's ever been done right in tabletop roleplay games. I say that with not a ton of wide depth experience of all tabletop roleplay games out there, but I just think tanking isn't possible to be done, and it is in this system because of lots of other things, but that's a separate question. But the philosophy is choice and freedom of being able to spend the things on what you want to accomplish. I've played Pathfinder before, and there was a moment, and this happens in D&D too, so this isn't a knock on Pathfinder, where if your character's in a moment and you really want to do something, they have to get through this door. I played it in Pathfinder. I wanted to get through a door, and my character's mother was on the other side, and I had to get through that door, and that scorpion was standing in between me and that getting through, and I had to make a check of some kind. And it didn't matter how much my character wanted to do that. It didn't matter that this meant everything to me in this moment. I rolled a D20, it was low, and that was the end of that story. I couldn't get through. And so now in DC20, not only have 4 action points to keep doing that motion, but then you also can give yourself advantage with those action points so that you can try and make that check. But this means everything to me. I'm giving myself advantage. And you know what? I'm giving myself advantage again. And if you feel like that's possibly broken, trust me, it's not, because that's your turn. You're giving up your turn to do this one thing that means everything to you. So then I could get into that room in a situation where I might not be able to. I spent 3/4 of my turn doing it, but I'm in there and I can do something to be able to help and do what I'm trying to do. And that's a goal as well, to be able to have the flexibility and freedom to spend your resources, whether it be mana points, stamina points, or action points, to do what you want to do and try and set yourself up best for it. But they are limited resources and you can only do so much. And that's where your team comes in. Another huge game design goal is playing together. How many times have you been playing D&D and we're all sitting around the same table? We're all fighting in the same combat, but you literally take turns, almost like Pokemon style, Final Fantasy style, where you go and then you go and then you go and then you go. Never once actually interacting and truly interacting. Cinematically, the Dungeon Master might describe interactions and like, you do this, and then it opens them up for this and all that stuff. But there's another game design principles of teamwork and overlapping and relying on each other and having that feel good, because if you play with that and you do those mechanics and the mechanics of the game lead you towards playing together, my gosh, you're just going to have more fun together because you're doing it together. Now for another comment from Richard Denander. Hope I said that right, 5812. Dude, this looks almost too good. No joke. I love D&D, but I've had some minor complaints floating around in my head for some years now, and you've addressed all of them and more. I'm going to be following your work closely. Can't wait to see where you go from here. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you. And there were so many more of these comments, but the biggest thing that stuck out to here is those floating complaints in your head. I think we can all address this, and we can all have these floating complaints in our head. And there's going to be floating complaints that you have with DC20. That's going to be the thing. No game in existence is perfect for everyone, right? And that's what there's going to be in DC20 and in the Game Master Guide. There's going to be variant rules and options and all this kind of stuff to address that topic and let as many people be able to play the game that they want to play in the way they want to. But we all have floating issues with Pathfinder or D&D or whatever game that we're playing, and for DC20 to be able to touch on and address those and maybe show light on possible ways where it could maybe be done better, and you hear that and be like, oh wow, you know what, that does sound really cool. An example that I have before all the OGL stuff went down, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go make my own game. One of the things I was going to do for D&D is rework the fighter to where the fighter, as an overall fighter at the base level, would be a battle master fighter. Like the core fighter would have martial dice and be able to do maneuvers and all that kind of stuff, right? And then the subclasses would expand on that in different directions. But the core of the fighter is maneuvers and performing these cool things. And then as soon as this whole shift happened, I was like, all right, well, that DC20, all martials have maneuvers because that's what you're doing. You have a weapon, you're doing stuff. You're sliding across the ground, slicing somebody's ankles. You're doing a flip around and grabbing somebody by the forearm and swinging your partner into them. Who knows what's going on, right? And I wanted to have cool maneuvers be done in that way. A little tangent there, but that's just one of my little hang-ups. Next one. Now this next one took me a while to find any sort of concerns or any sort of like, because it was just absolutely a flood of overwhelming positivity and excitement and hype. But I really love to look for these little nuggets and trying to find like, okay, what are people really feeling? From Torin777, a concern they have is some confusion with spell casting. It sounds like martials are getting a lot more love to their toolbox, which is much needed from 5th edition. We all know how little underperforming they were in some ways in comparison. Martials now also, if you didn't know, in DC20 have a resource called Stamina that dynamically they gain and lose. It's a smaller pool, but they gain and lose it during combat as they use and get it back. Another cool little thing that they get to kind of play around with. Whereas spellcasters have an ever-depleting mana pool. So once the martials can keep going and going and going, and casters just run out of mana. So to address concerns here, because it's a very valid concern, it's something I don't want to have where, there's this mana pool and it just goes down to nothing, and now I can't do anything, and the martials are dun 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 dun, just killing it in there. So in general, to address the martials, stamina is not some sort of infinite resource. Stamina is a very small pool. Keep that in mind. Spellcasters have a very large pool. Yes, it then eventually depletes, needing a long rest to refill it, other things like that. Also, asterisk for that. Lots of classes, not necessarily all classes, although that is a possibility. Classes have other ways to possibly get mana back. Clerics with the divine intervention they get at 2nd level. Lesser divine intervention that they get early on, getting a bigger one later. They get replenished. They get replenished from their deity, and they get healing to be able to cast out to themselves and others, and they also get a little bit of mana back too. So there's going to be things like that for just, those quality of life things for some casters. But back to the martials, keep in mind with them, they have a very small pool. Starting off at level 1, you have 1 stamina, right? And because of that, you're going to be able to use it, then you don't have any, then you have to get it back, and then you're going to have some, and then you're going to use it. So meanwhile, the casters always have it until it's gone, right? Yes, they have to manage that, and then once it is gone, interesting. But it's not like the martials just have this infinite stamina that they can just use all the time. They lose it. They have nothing. They have to do certain things depending on their class to get it back, and then they can use it again. But overall, yes, they are going to be able to keep going in a very long, drawn-out, multiple fights and all that kind of stuff. If you're having back-to-back-to-back fights, yes, that is a strength of theirs, and I think that's an important strength of theirs. It's as opposed to spellcasters. Now, how spellcasters are going to be able to accomplish this on their side to not just have nothing to do is certain cantrips in the game are able to be enhanced with action points, right? So yes, certain spells and a lot of spells have mana point enhancements where you pour more mana into the spell to make it do more cool things, right? But you also have spells that have action point enhancements where you can pour more action points into them, which you get 4 of every turn, and you can do more things with those. And you can take cantrips and make them better with action points instead of mana points. And spellcasters are also going to get class features as they level up and get higher levels as well, that they can use those features and the certain things, whether it be even something as simple simple as the wizard spending mana to put a sigil on the ground, and then that lasts on the ground, and now they have advantage on spells they cast of that certain school or damage type, and they have this on the ground that lasts for a while. But I do think that is part of being a spellcaster, is to manage that mana pool in that way. Another little thing that if you haven't seen the alpha, and I haven't necessarily said this in a video before, but out of combat, when things aren't, back against the wall fighting for your life, everything's in the heat of the moment. Out of combat, casting spells is 1 less mana. So if you cast a spell outside of combat that costs 3 mana normally, it only costs 2. So that's a little bit of love and appreciation for the spellcasters, so that they don't, I don't want to cast this spell because now I'd be lower in. We all hate that moment. We all hate that moment, and this is a creative way I feel like that I've addressed that, to be able to reduce that mana cost outside of combat. You have all the time in the world to cast Scrying. It's all good. You can do your thing. It's not like you're like having to scramble around and do it really fast. So you're a little bit more efficient outside of combat. But the minimum cost is still 1. So if you cast a first level, like your 1 mana cost spell, it does still cost 1. You don't get freebies like that. That'd break the game. You get the idea. Because you are still tapping into that mana and you are still casting magic. So there is a little bit of cost there, but that's another quality of life thing. Next comment is from Lux the Slav. In all my time with 5th edition, which has only been my only TTRPG so far, anytime I've came across a potential competitor, I've had an aversion for one reason or another. But this one's the first time I'm genuinely excited to see where it's going. I'm considering buying it and running my next campaign in DC20 instead of 5th edition. These comments are crazy. People playing campaigns of DC20 is wild to me. I absolutely love it, and I want to try and get the rest of the alpha out so that y'all can have the resources in level 3, 4, 5, 6, and beyond to make that happen, right? But it is a big ask. It is a big thing to switch over from a game that you've played for possibly decades over to a new system. So my biggest recommendation for anybody out there with groups, and I've also sent videos to my patrons who have struggled with this as well, is if you're in a group that's playing D&D, and that's what y'all's main game has been forever, and DC20 is this new interesting thing, show them a video or two, tell them about a concept or two. I'm also going to be making a video working on this whole overall concept of DC20, and I've done some of those before, but I think I could do it more efficiently. Start off and just play a one-shot. Play a one-shot, see how it goes, maybe play a 2-shot and do a little something, and then let them play around with it and see how it goes. And then by the time you finish up whatever campaign you're on, that's where the updates are coming, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Next comment is from Grand Old Dwarf, which was so cool to see a lot of the DC20 community in Treantmonks video talk, and I saw so many familiar names through all the 500 comments. But he says, I love that other creators are picking up the DC20 flag. Thank you for all you're doing. And I truly echo that sentiment. My own community has been wildly excited to see other people and other content creators make stuff and go over and join that and then get more people from them. And just the community on everyone's fronts are growing. And that is my goal as a content creator that has released a TTRPG, to do it right across the board. And so every single content creator out there, I have an affiliate link to, that they get a cut of every single thing. If they show eyes to DC20 and they do that, I want to give back to them. And I can't tell you how many videos me and all these other content creators have made about D&D, and we've gotten absolutely nothing from, whether it not even be a thank you or an email or a response or anything like that. I know they're huge and massive and all that stuff. I haven't made a penny from Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know how many books of theirs that I've sold and all of that. And I'm just trying to do it right. And that's a little bit of behind the scenes stuff of I want to give back to creators and say thank you for showing people this awesome game. And I want them to benefit from it too, and be able to give back to them because they're helping you guys too and making videos and excitement. It's just so cool. Okay, back to a comment. There's a little bit more teetering on the fence here that I want to shed some light to. So from Drakimera, this video was great. I am still on the fence though about this system. The primary question is, can we play adventures and does the system fall away and fade into the background and we forget about it in the game? And they mean that in a good way. It's great that a system is simple. The goal isn't the system, it's the story. I just got chills reading that. Modules like Curse of Strahd are amazing. Yeah, I'm currently running right now. This is literally Curse of Strahd Dungeon Master Binder. Whoa. They go on to say that they're excited about the simplifying of spells because it slows down the story if people are looking up all these different spells. And we know once players get to like level 7, 8, 9, 10 and beyond, how many spells you have and all the different options. You have those spells in each different spells of different categories or different spell levels, and you have so many, which ones can you do? And then I want to do this, but let me look it up real quick to see exactly what it does. What is Tasha's Hideous Laughter actually? Oh wait, it's a what kind of save is that? Oh, let me go look at the spell. It's a oof. So one thing to address address the mechanics of that, in DC20, spellcasters' spell lists will be way shorter because spells evolve and shift and change into other spells. So a spell like Dominate Person, Dominate Monster, Dominate Beast is all the spell called Dominate. And you know what the spell does, even just by the name, it dominates. At this much mana, you can dominate a beast, pump more mana into it, you can dominate a person, pump more, it's a monster, pump more, you can do 2 targets, you get the idea. So yes, DC20 will be efficient and simple and fade into the background. And speaking from experience and even from his feedback from other dungeon masters who have ran this, because I've ran this, I don't even know how many times at this point, over 100 easily. Even in this alpha stages, I've been playtesting this wildly. But it does very much fade into the background. It's very, very simple. The by 5s, super intuitive. You make skill checks, done. Advantage and disadvantage stacking, done. 4 points, you spin them, done. It's so simple. I just did a birthday one-shot with people who have never played tabletop roleplay games in their life. And one of the players was playing a rogue and they wanted to attack 2 things at the same time. And that's all they told me. I want to attack these 2 things at the same time. Now in D&D, I would have had to say, oh, sorry, you can only attack once per turn because your attack action is just an attack and you can't actually do that, right? Now, I'm not all about saying that, oh, players could just do whatever they want and everything's yes all the time. No, there's 4 action points. Let's see if we can make this work. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, first of all, I know we have to get in range of that other target, the second target you want to hit. So we're going to at least have to make a move action to get there. So let's make the move action. Ooh, but you just left the threatened space of this animated armor that you're fighting over here. So what do you want to do? Are you want to take a disengage? Do you want to do 1 disengage point to try and like save yourself from that? Or do you want to save that action point? And they had to make that little choice. Okay, cool. Or you could spend 2 points to take a full disengage and be immune from it. But now you only have 1 action point and you can't hit both anymore. Do you want to make the risk? What are you doing? Oh, okay, I'm going to make the risk. They made the risk. They made this. They were fine. They took the move action to get into the center of the room in range of both. Now they have an attack and another attack and 1 extra action point here. What do you want to do with this action point? Do you want to give yourself advantage to one of those 2 attacks, canceling out disadvantage from the stacking disadvantage on that second attack? And you can make 1 normal attack and a second attack at disadvantage. Ooh, but that point could cancel that out and you can make 2 normal attacks, just like you said. Or do you want to make a maneuver? And there's so many different points and the points are flexible and fluid for brand new players just saying a concept of what they want to do, or veteran players who know like, okay, I know I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this. I'm going to do a maneuver on this one. And those veterans can min-max the crap out of it for those type of players while the beginners have 4 points and you spend your 4 points, and that's super simple. As the rules fade into the background and they can be as simple as just saying stuff and the Dungeon Master helps you through those 4 points, or you're the veteran and you plan the whole thing out and you do it. I also just love Jack Amara's comment about the story and how important the story is, and I completely agree and love that. And in that birthday one-shot, the big finale moment of awesomeness was not a combat, which is crazy because that's what's supposed to happen in these big finale moments, is this big final combat. And there's a skill challenge system. I have done a video on that, a skill challenge system that I'll link in the description. But there's a skill challenge system in DC20 to allow the story to take over. Everyone makes 1 roll and we tell the story. How high those rolls are compared to DCs, and you get a point if you beat the DC, 2 points if you beat it by 5, and so on. And you can still tell that story, trying to see if we can get that amount of points that we need to be able to succeed and have the victory. And that was the big final victory moment, and it was a wild ending. And I never had a skill challenge end, or I've never had a one-shot end with a skill challenge with so much of a bang. And that is a story that was told with the mechanics just being there to support it. Next comment is from Andrew Stoughton 6166. I'm also digging the 4 action points that reset at the end of your turn. It reminds me of deck building games where your hand resets at the end of your turn. Literally where my head was at whenever I came up with that. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh a lot. I used to play Magic the Gathering, and I've played Hearthstone and all these other deck building card type games. And it was like, okay, well, like you use them all, and then at the end they come back, so you have your action points, able to spend them on reactions if you want. But then if you do spend 2 reactions, now you only have 2 points. And I've had players in DC20 spend all of their action points as reactions sprinkled across an entire round, or all in one big epic moment, and then their turn comes up, they have no action points left, and they get all of them back and they go to the next one. And it doesn't feel bad because they just did all those things across the board that they chose to do. That's a huge thing. Choice. They chose to spend these points. Each and every one they chose, that moment was important to them and they chose to do it. So it doesn't feel bad because you chose to do that. It's not like that happened to you or something, you just lost a turn. You know what I'm saying? You were able to do something you never would have normally been able to do. And they would have much rather have that happen, and then their turn goes on, which also keeps the pace of the game moving. Then be like, oh, I can't do anything. Okay, oh man, there's so many moments I wish I could have done something for. It's my turn. I have 4 points. No, there's many different ways that you can use points as reaction points. No, that's just not as cool. And then we have a comment from Improv Ice Cream. I love this. I feel like it takes the winning ideas from 5e and Pathfinder 2nd Edition, then simplifies them into a package in its cleanest presentation. It's exactly what I've been looking for, and that comment is exactly what I've been looking for to describe this thing. I've seen DC20 been called the love child of D&D and Pathfinder, but I think this is a very good, taking the winning ideas and simplifying them down into a clean presentation. Very well said. And time out. Oh my God, real quick. I'm in the middle of filming this video in reaction to Treantmonk's video, and I get a comment from none other than Mr. Rhexx in Discord. He sent me a message. He said, hey, Alan, by random happenstance, I caught Treantmonk's video yesterday night about DC20 and ended up watching the whole thing. I felt compelled to give you a boost today by telling you that DC20 looks absolutely phenomenal. And I think you and Eddie Blanton for the record, Purius, his alias is Purius on Discord. He's my right-hand man with all of this. I pretty much am going in and I'm making it. I have a bunch of stuff and I'm throwing all the stuff at the wall, and then Eddie comes in there and polishes it off. For those of you who don't know who Eddie Blanton is, he goes by Purius on Discord. He is basically my right-hand man in the trenches. We have calls every week and talk about stuff and kind of bash ideas back and forth. And then he's also very good at, I'll say a rule and how I think it's going to work. And I'm like, it should work like this, and this. But like, how do we say that? And he's very good at getting in my head and saying it in a very clean and clear way. So a little props to Eddie right there too, that Rhexx gave him props too, are doing a terrific job. The 4 action point system looks incredibly fun. Your decision of having action points come back at the end of the turn, leaving design space for creating reactions to take place, being able to grant multiple levels of advantage and sacrificing actions, having things like stowing weapons, picking up weapons, opening doors be free actions, even on multiple action point system. Just love all these things and get such great design choices. Even allowing creatures at 0 hit points to be able to role play is huge. Honestly, huge props, and I know you guys will go far. That's crazy. I literally just got this as I'm filming this video. So big props to Mr. Rhexx, and now we can shift into the overall updates and announcements of some big stuff that's coming in DC20. One of those is YouTuber playtest. I did a playtest with, and I'll show the video on the screen now, with Treantmonk, the guy that just did this whole video and blow up there, Luke Hart from the DM Lair, Duke from One Shot Questers, and Bob World Builder. I got all 4 of those guys in and did a one-shot with them. It was amazing, and I'm going to be editing it right now. It's a full video. It's from start to finish, the whole one shot. It's a long one, and we're going to edit it all down, and I'll be posting that sometime in the next 2 weeks or so. That was so much fun. I'm going to be doing another one. They're not all going to be together in the same one shot, but these are some of the names that you might be familiar with, is Mr. Rhexx, D&D Shorts, and Colby from D4 Deep Dive. Another optimizer, and I can't wait to see what these people do. And I did play with D&D Shorts at Gen Con and stuff. I played with a lot of other content creators, and it's just been so much fun to see the love and support from the community, content creators, and then those content creators communities as we all blend in this bigger, very vastly growing community. So to update the community on some things, the very next update is going to be coming out here in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, and it's going to be launched as the 0.5 alpha. If you already purchased it on the website, make sure you log in and you have your email in there so you can actually log in. I automatically am going to upload it, and then I click a button and says, send this out to anyone who's already purchased it. So you will automatically get the 0.5 update. Also, if anyone wants super duper early access to those things, next week, I already did kind of post it last week of Ancestries and different updates that I post to the Metallic Dragon patron tier for the people who just really want to get early access. It doesn't look polished off as the PDF does, right? But it's just like, here's the stuff, get it to y'all as quick as I can to try and get to people that are wanting to play campaigns right now. I'm trying to help out in the best way I can there. Those are the 2 options, but overall, people who purchase on the website will get the updates 0.5, 0.6 all the way through. I'm also going to be posting full videos on each big concept. So the Ancestry system is going to have its own video where I'm going to be talking about the Ancestry system, and then every single patch update, I'm going to be posting every single rule so that you could watch that video and you'd be up to date. There's also going to be a change log in every single one of these things so y'all can see what was changed in between iterations, going from 0.4 to 5 to 6 to 7 and so on. And some of those changes right now are some buffs to the monk class, which was a known thing. And monk, I did the entire redesign from the monk and just really trying to pitch the play style of the monk, and I wanted to see if that was good. I fully knew that it was operating a little bit behind some of the other classes, and I'll get into that in that video. But the monk's going to get some big upgrades. Ranger's getting a small little buff. Warlord's getting a small little buff. Every other class looks like they're in a great spot. There were some fighter interactions that have been cleaned up and polished regarding their stamina, and some other interesting interactions of multi-classing with Paladin and Warlord there. But all of those are going to be fixed. There's going to be updates to saves and how it's clean that those work, and trying to streamline a lot of stuff. Overall, now that this thing has gotten so many eyes on it and there's been so much great feedback, and as far as the different things, and like Treantmonk did, is just show and shine light on parts of the game that have maybe some cracks in there, and maybe it wasn't clear as far as what the goal and design intention was, so we just clarified that, add in extra pieces to be more clear, add in extra rules as the game's continuing to develop, like the ancestry system, to be able to make an ancestry in a customized and full of choice type of way. But it's been wild to be a part of this, and this is a very exciting time. This for me, it's to launch this game and to have so much support on it from across the board in so many different ways has been insane. And I look forward to every single day that I can come in here and start working on some stuff. So stay tuned. I'll be keeping people posted on Discord and videos, and I can't wait to get you guys this next update, and also to give a further out update. 0.5, I just kind of told you about that. 0.6 is going to be some class and subclass type stuff, to where we can get those third level subclasses. Every class in DC20 gets their subclass at third level. There will be subclasses and ancestry, more traits and stuff and talents for that. So you will be able to, in the 0.6 update, you will be able to hit levels 3 and 4 to be able to get yourselves there, and that's going to be huge. And I'm trying to get that as quick as I can, because I know people want to play campaigns and they want to keep people going to level up and stuff. So you will be able to, in 0.6, you will be able to hit levels 3 and 4, and then around 0.7 or so, you'll be able to hit levels 5, 6, 7, and then we'll see about around that time we're probably going to be starting to shift over into the beta and the Kickstarter and launching the whole big thing. And when I say classes, I don't just mean higher level versions of the currently existing 11 classes. I'm also talking about 5 more classes. I don't know what's going to be released into the beta, but I wanted to release more classes right now just to see what the class roster is going to look like. But we're going to be releasing the Warlock, the Bard, the Druid, the Cursed, and the Artificer. Lots of feedback has came in about wanting to see an Artificer, and that's going to be some of the ones that are released out into that. And I can't wait to see what you guys think about that, because all of that's going to be wild. I love where all those, the direction of all those are going, and I can't wait to get all this stuff to you guys. And thank you to my community for loving up DC20 to make this even possible. Thank you to my patrons, because this would literally not be possible. I would have had to stop. I would have had to go back to be a teacher. I would have had to go just make D&D videos and try and hope that works out after all the OGL stuff. My patrons are literally what got me here to be able to do this, and to be able to have these people see it in the first place, to be able to have this game that I could play with Treantmonk, to then him say like, oh, this is awesome, and share with his community, to show that, and then people be excited. It would not have been possible without my patrons. So thank you, patrons, and the community of the Dungeon Coach community, of being able to love up this thing and watching videos and stuff, and then now expanding it out to Treantmonk and other people's communities. Welcome if this is the first video of mine you've ever watched, and welcome to the community. It's super awesome, and you guys are the ones that make it awesome, because none of this would be possible without all of you, and I would just be playing DC20 alone in a basement. So until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.